Hey, well, welcome to Elijah Streams. I'm your host, Steve Shultz, and we're doing something a little bit different today, a little bit special. Get this cord out of the way here. I was born in the state of Oregon, which we still live in, or moved back to years and years ago now. And I love this state. It's important to me. And I asked to do an interview with the Republican nominee for U.S. Senate from the state of Oregon, Jo Rae Perkins. She's happily agreed to do this interview. So without further delay, let's go on to Jo Rae Perkins here. And hello, Jo Rae. How are you?
Hello, Steve. Thank you so much. I am excellent and blessed to be here.
Awesome. Well, I'd asked you off the air, do we call you Miss Perkins or Jo Rae? And you said Jo Rae. So if anyone thinks I'm being less than genuine, we agreed we can call her Jo Rae. So if you're good, let's jump right in. I wanted to just come to the part where start with the part where our borders are literally being overrun by many accounts. There's over 1 million illegal, undocumented, whatever term you would use, who've come over the border. They have no income, they have no food, they have no medical care, and each one of these is a potential cradle to the grave government assistance program. This was not this way a year and a half ago when President Trump was in office. What are your thoughts on this, and what do you see as a solution?
It's a humanitarian crisis. For people not in the state of Oregon, Oregon actually is a sanctuary state. So that was voted by the people, I think 1987. I haven't looked up the date lately, but that date rings a bell in my brain. So we're actually not a city. The entire state is sanctuary. The problem is it's not just the people that are wanting asylum, and absolutely we're 100% for people that truly need asylum. The challenge is the human trafficking, the sex trafficking, the narco slavery, which I'll mention here a little bit deeper in a second. And as you said, the people that are coming across here in Southern Oregon, there are illegal marijuana grows. And yes, in Oregon, it's legal to have marijuana farms, but there's illegal ones. And they have brought up literally slaves from south of the border called narco slavery. People are being killed down there. That is already proven. Law enforcement doesn't have enough help. So not only do we have large amounts of fentanyl, that is now the #1 killer in the United States of people between the ages of 18 and 45 is overdoses of fentanyl, and it doesn't take much for that to happen. There's a young man here in Oregon. He had a toothache, and his friend gave him a pain pill, not knowing it was fentanyl. They carried his ashes across the stage for his graduation. Sorry, it breaks my heart.
Yeah.
You know, a young life. It is a humanitarian crisis, but we need to be upfront and bold about this. This is being pushed by the leftists to try to get to our heartstrings. Well, maybe we should be working with those governments so that their people are going to want to stay there and be prosperous and successful in their own countries, because a lot of these people are coming here and they're living in squalor, and it's not right. And the rapes that are going on are out of control. The children are being trafficked. They're paying their parents to claim, to send them across the border. These children are being abused. They're being left in the desert to die. You don't see this stuff on the mainstream media.
No.
We need to bring this stuff out to the forefront and say this is 100% wrong. And absolutely, we're okay with helping those people that really need the help, but they're putting people in a really bad situation.
And how do you feel about now? I've heard some prognosticators say, well, look, why don't we just change it from about 1 million that are legally accepted a year to 2 million a year, but let's process them legally, and instead of crashing the border through the not yet finished wall. What about something like that?
There comes a saturation point to where we can't handle all the people that are coming in. There's not enough housing. Let's look at Oregon. The housing here in Oregon is so expensive. You can't find a place to rent. I have a friend, her rental just burnt. There's living in a hotel room. 4 of them in one hotel room. They can't find a place to rent in Albany, Oregon. It's out of control what the cost of housing is here. And it only drives the costs up, and people end up living in squalor. They don't speak English. They don't understand the language. They're not going to be living in any better conditions. when people immigrate here, they have to be sponsored. They have to prove that they have the income to be able to be here or they have to have proof that they have employment already lined up. There's all types of things that need to happen. Why are we the only country? Well, there might be another one, I don't know off the top of my head, that just says, yeah, everybody can come in. We don't care who you are. Just come over the border and we'll make it work. But we don't know what they're here for. So
Yeah.
we just can't do that. We don't open up our doors to our houses and say, well, just come on in anytime you feel like.
No,
And we're going to put 50 people in our house. We just can't.
What do you what are your thoughts or understandings as far as the human trafficking that's going on now? Some people have said, "Oh, that's just a conspiracy. There's not human trafficking or human slavery." So, talk anything you know about the quantity of that, and is the solution the same thing as we just talked about, or is that something else?
So, that's a whole nother problem. Human trafficking's been going on for a long time. People can go online, they can just type it in their search engine, human trafficking in the United States, and they'll be blown away at one point. And these numbers fluctuate, but Portland, Oregon was the human trafficking capital of the West Coast. And that number goes back and forth, but it's a well-known human trafficking area. So
yeah, it's intense. All right, let's talk about. I don't really know what the exact numbers are. You might know this. When President Trump left office, or when he left the White House, it might be a more appropriate way to say that. When he left the White House, the gas prices were significantly lower than they are right now. They've grown astronomically. $5 is starting to be something you see in the rearview mirror because it's jumping ahead of $5. What in the world is driving that, and what's the solution there?
Well, I just looked it up real quick. So January, oh, shoot, they didn't tell me that was a year after he left office. Let's see here. January, it's not going back far enough. That's nice. I just went by the gas station where we get gas and we run premium or non-ethanol, depends on the vehicle, $5.99.9, so $6 a gallon for premium. December 27th of 2021, it was $3.37 for regular gas. So it's just doing nothing but going up. Right after Biden was put into office, he stopped the Keystone Pipeline. He ended the drilling in Alaska, in the ANWR fields up there. We were energy independent. They are trying to push us into the Green New Deal at warp speed. They're ignoring the fact that it takes diesel fuel to make the batteries. They completely ignore that fact. They ignore the fact of what it takes to make the solar panels and the destruction of doing the granite. It's not sand, it's granite silica, and all of the energy that goes into making all those panels. It's not saving money. It's smoke and mirrors. So this is all part of them to control that agenda. Now they're talking about rolling brownouts here in Oregon this year. The fact is that the infrastructure is not built to handle all that electricity. Electric cars do not work very well when it's below freezing. So there's another problem. In Oregon, with all the rain we have, good luck with your solar panels.
That's not going to be work.
It's not going to work. One of our state senators, they live off the grid down in Klamath County, and they literally have to, okay, do we have enough energy to be able to vacuum the house today? Do we have, so they have to, it's a whole different lifestyle. You can't just go plug in your vacuum and turn on your air conditioning and run the microwave and the hair dryer. So this is all part of breaking our economy because it's not just the gas, as we know.
Yeah.
Diesel shortage.
What would you end up, okay, as a U.S. Senator representing the state, what would you end up voting for or opposing that someone sitting in office in the White House would be trying to do? If you were sitting there today, what would you be doing to represent Oregon or basically the whole U.S. as far as this issue? I mean,
I would be pushing that they open up the Keystone Pipeline, that they open up the drilling and stop putting a hold on all the permits that were already issued and let us drill. Oil is a natural resource. It is a renewable resource, and that is already proven. So for them to call it fossil fuel, which is a propaganda term that came out from, I believe, the 50s. It is not a fossil fuel. It is a regenerating fuel energy source. So we need to do that. And I would be pushing for that. I would also push for the new nuclear energy that was actually developed at Oregon State University underneath the company name, I believe, I want to say is New Scale, NU Scale, I believe. And it's a very good technology where you don't have all of the rods that you have in the regular nuclear reactor plants. And so there's another form of energy that can be harnessed. But for our vehicles, we need our gasoline until they can come up with a better way.
Yeah.
But we need to do it in a realistic manner. I talked to somebody over in the Dalles that was charging their Tesla. And I asked him, I said, how long does it take to charge your car? He said, about 20 minutes. Well, how long does it take me to fill my tank? About 5 minutes. So you figure every 300 miles, you have to stop for 20 minutes. And
that's if you can find this. That's if you can find the port to plug it in.
Right.
Now, isn't it true that coal is the primary source? Let's see, as it relates to electric cars, they've got to generate the electricity to run electric cars, and that's coal. Now, aren't they just talking in circles? They're trying to get away from coal, so they put us on electric, which makes us dependent on coal.
Well, it depends. So Oregon, we shut down the only coal burning plant that we had at Boardman, and it was actually very efficient. But in other parts of the country, they burn coal. So yes. So it's that's why I say it's smoke and mirrors.
Yeah.
You know, on the back end, they're having to use coal and diesel to produce the product, so that on the consumer end, you feel like you're doing a really good thing for the environment.
And before we move on to the next question, I that kind of trips me out, because I feel like if it ices over here in the state of Oregon, which it does it once or twice a year, or in the state of Texas, or if it ices over you have the other energy situations, a whole green new thing with what do they call it? Windmills.
Wind turbines, yeah.
You know, if those either freeze over, the power stops. If they decide that the power you have in your state needs to be sent to a more important state for their emergency, it stops. And now all of the cars that they're patting themselves on the back because now they own electric cars, and all of a sudden there's no electricity to go to a pump and wait 20 minutes because it's been sent.
Right, exactly. And the other thing, so here in Oregon, in our wind farms that they have, if there's not enough wind blowing that day to generate the electricity, they turn them using natural gas.
Back to what they call fossil fuel.
Yes.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Let's see. Where do we want to go? We've talked about, you and I texted back and forth a few days ago, and on one of the Oregon voters guides left your slot blank, as if you didn't have a stance on life and all of the issues regarding life, and you had an explanation of why they left that blank. I thought, well, they're either playing a dirty trick on you by leaving it blank, or there's some other explanation, which you did have. So talk about that.
Yeah. So I didn't answer the question.
Yeah.
I abstained. I prayed about it. I answered the question, and I just went, I cannot compromise. So the question in full for the Oregon Family Council voter guide: if Roe v. Wade is overturned by the U.S. Supreme Court, would you support or oppose legislation restricting abortion in Oregon, with exceptions for rape, incest, and to save the life of the mother? I can't answer that question.
It had to be a yes or no.
It was yes or no, or abstain. So I abstained from it, because if I said that I would support, then I'm okay with abortion for some issues. If I say that I oppose, then I'm okay with abortion for any issue. I'm pro-life.
Yeah.
So it's a no-win question. And so, like I said, I prayed about it. I went, okay, Lord, I am putting this 100% in your hands, and I'm not going to answer the question. And I put an explanation, which they put an asterisk, so people went online, they could see the answer, the explanation. I put, why should the life of an innocent baby be sacrificed due to the act of a criminal? And I didn't even address to save the life of the mother, because it's such a tiny fraction of that even being a question.
Well, and to save the life of the mother, couldn't a liberal half of the state or 3/4 of the state being liberal doctors, couldn't they all say, well, this is going to affect the life of the mother? So all of a sudden you're right back in.
Yes. And they will use that. They'll call it a therapeutic abortion. They'll say it's for her psychological, emotional well-being. There was a young lady, 24 years old, I believe it was in New Mexico, late-term abortion. She went to an abortionist and she died because of infection. And the doctor said, well, I was concerned about her mental and emotional health.
So that's the life of the mother. That's how they get to define it.
Yes.
So it's a law that states that is no law at all, is it?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Now, Jo Rae, you ended up winning the nomination without even doing that. I didn't even see the asterisk at least on the guide that I had, so I didn't know where to go look for an explanation. So maybe it was on that mine or not. But
yeah, I just had mine out yesterday, but I was rearranging my office, so.
Yeah, that's all right. Well, let me just ask you this. Speaking of that for a moment before I go to the next one, how many people were you running against on the Republican ticket to get this nomination? And how did you come out on top, do you feel? Of course, we know you're going to say, well, God, and that's, of course, is the right answer. But in the natural, how did you come out on top and beat out all the others who answered that question?
There were 7 of us altogether in the race, 1 female, 6 men.
Oh, wow.
And and I did not raise the most money. In fact, I just said, okay, God, the amount of money raised in political races, I think is obscene and it's not needed, that amount of money. And I want him to get the glory. And this is a journey that he called me to in 2009. And I've trusted him all the way through. And in the natural, I go everywhere. And people were just astonished how many places that I would show up to. And I actually did not get to all the counties. We tried, but we just couldn't quite get it all into the calendar. So and reach all the right people that we were trying to get to. Drove through almost every county.
Well,
but I went everywhere that I could possibly get to. I had statewide name recognition because I won the nomination also in 2020. And in 2020, I received more votes than any other Republican U.S. Senator nominee in Oregon history.
Really?
Yes. And that was during COVID. We didn't have meetings and rallies and events. So, and we did that with less than $100,000. I serve a miracle working God.
Yeah, that is amazing, Jo Rae. And I, as one that's followed you, I'm as astonished as the others. But this is your second time running or third time running?
This is my third time running for the U.S. Senate. I ran twice for a congressional seat.
Okay. Excellent. All right. Let's see. Where do we want to go? Let's talk about gun control. Man, there's as many ideas and variations on gun control. So rather than me ask a specific question on that, where do you land on all this?
I was asked this question a couple of days ago by a fellow Republican, and he said, "What if we made sure that one, you can't get a firearm until you're 21, and that you have to take a class and be proficient in handling a firearm before you can buy one?" The problem we have is you're penalizing the honest people, the people that follow the law. Let's take the shooting in Uvalde, Texas. He was 18 years old. It is illegal for an 18-year-old to buy that type of firearm. He did not have it legally. In Oregon, you can buy a rifle, but you cannot buy a handgun until you're 21 years old. The vast majority of them are all semi-automatic. And so that for people that don't know anything about firearms, an automatic means I can pull the trigger and the bullets keep on coming out until I stop. To have an automatic weapon in the entire country is a virtual impossibility. You've got to go through a lot of hoops to get one, special permission, background checks like you wouldn't believe. So very rare to have one. But most firearms are semi-automatic. So you have to pull the trigger every time for a bullet to come out. So that's the difference. If you have a fast enough trigger finger, you can rapid fire. But so a criminal is not going to follow the law. So that's the problem with them trying to make all these laws. We already have to go through a background check in order to own a firearm, to buy one legally from a gun dealer. So we need to enforce the laws that we have in place. And it's not a gun issue, it's a mental health issue. We need to address the mental health of people. They used to post this stat, they stopped posting it. But I do know that when we go back to Columbine, those young men were on psychotropics as adolescents. The young man that shot his parents down in Springfield and went to the school, he was on psychotropics as an adolescent. They used to post this. They stopped posting it because they realized that all these adolescents were on psychotropics that were going to use. Yes. And you don't find that data anymore. They stopped posting
So
it.
then, so bottom line, what do you feel like the laws should be?
We need to leave the laws as they are, but we need to, number one, we've told our youth that their life is not important, that life is not valuable. When you can take the life of a baby in Oregon up until the moment of birth, your life is not valuable. In the state of New York and it's already legal in New York. In California, they're looking at making it legal. Infanticide, you can kill your newborn baby up to 24 or 28 days after it's born. They're saying your life does not matter. We could throw you away at any time. And then they see all these video games that are horrible. Young kids are playing these video games. They're so desensitized to reality. So we have a mental health crisis. We have a value of life crisis. And at the back of it all, at the front of it all, God is nowhere to be seen. We've got to put God back forefront on his throne where he belongs.
Yeah, so good.
That's the answer.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a question about term limits, and I honestly have no idea what your position is, but I want to tell you that back in the late 90s, Linda Smith ran for Congress and became a U.S. representative. She was a write-in candidate. I was one that wrote her in with everybody else, and she won. And she went to Washington, and she was either there one term or a second one, but because of her commitment to term limits, she then left, and a very capable, well thought out, well-trained representative was suddenly gone. Okay, with that in mind, and I feel like it was a bit of a loss, where do you stand on term limits with that kind of thing?
I support term limits. I believe 12 years maximum combined between the House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate is plenty of time to be in Washington, D.C. That would give somebody 2 full terms in the Senate, or 6 full terms as a representative, or 3 terms as a representative, 1 term as a senator. Our founders, the Articles of Confederation, they actually had term limits. And this was a big discussion among the founders. And they said, serve your country for a season. And if you still want to be politically active, do so at the local level and make room for another person. You end up losing touch with your constituents. Power is a very powerful entity, and people get caught up in the power bug. They end up getting compromised. They end up giving in. They end up making deals that go against their core values. And I think in order to save not only themselves, but our country, we need to start saying, look, 12 years is more than enough time. There, move aside. Well, there could be somebody that might not be as good. Well, there could be somebody a heck of a lot better too. And I think we need to work at pushing up people and getting our country back to what this was supposed to be. This is a service position. This is not to go in there and get wealthy.
Which many have, of course. Way too many have done that. Let me ask this. This one and one other question on the role. There's a lot of different viewpoints of the role of the federal government. It seems to have changed and grown into the government getting into every aspect of our lives, including education. And let's talk about the role of the federal government and where do they have a place in the family if they do?
They don't. Okay. Hold on. Oh gosh, where did I put it? I literally had it on my desk yesterday because there it is. Like I said, I was rearranging my office a little bit yesterday. In the Constitution, everybody can look this up. Article 1, Section 8, it lines out the 18 areas of the federal government. It's right there. That's it. To borrow money, to regulate commerce among foreign nations and the Indians, establish a rule of naturalization, regulate the value of the coined money, provide for punishment of counterfeiting securities, establish post office and post roads, promote progress of science and useful arts, securing for a limited time, in other words, a patent, constitute tribunals inferior to the court, define and punish piracies and felonies on the high seas, declare war, grant letters of marque and reprisal, make rules concerning captures on land and water, raise and support armies for only 2 years at a time, provide and maintain a navy, make rules for the government and regulation of the land of the naval forces, provide for calling forth the militia to execute the laws of the Union, suppress insurrections, and repel invasions. That's what the militia is for. To provide for organizing, arming, and disciplining the militia, exercise executive legislation in all cases whatsoever over the district, which is Washington, D.C., and make all laws which shall be necessary and proper to carry out those prior 17 issues.
That's it. That's it.
And that's the job that I'm asking people to elect me to do. That's the job description, 17 major points.
And so as it relates to, and maybe because you're running for a federal office, what role would you have, if any, in affecting what the teachers are trying to teach as far as sexual content in the schools and all that? Would you have any role in that, or a role to help stop what they're doing? So
the challenge that we have is a lot of the lobbyists, and there's some good lobbying firms out there, but one of the most powerful lobbies out there is the National Education Association, and they go in and they bend the ears of the elected people. They wine and dine them. And I will push back and say, no, this is not the job of the federal. I have a strong stance that I will vote no on any bill that is clearly not 100% constitutional. We have to get back to the role of the federal government. This country was founded for a very small federal and a larger state, and larger at the county level, larger at the city level, so that the closer you are to the people have more say. The federal is supposed to be the major oversight and to protect us from foreign invaders. That's the major job. Oh. And so we need to this is a local issue, and we need to get them out of our government and out of our schools. So
out of our hair and out of our home, I suppose. Let's do this last question here.
Okay.
You're running on the Republican ticket, but of course, when or if you become the senator, you're going to represent all of the people.
Yes.
So there has to be some crossovers where what positions or philosophy or whatever you want to say helps you to help all of the people, not just Republicans, but Democrats. What are the crossover issues where they're going to agree with you? Many will agree with you as Republicans might.
There are some areas that when we take a look at that we agree on. We all want to love and be loved. We all want a roof over our heads, be able to provide for our families, food on the table, feel safe and secure in our homes, and we really want the government to leave us alone. I've asked that question in mixed audiences, Republicans, Democrats, unaffiliated voters, 100% of the agreement, 100% of the time. We need to start looking at where do we agree on. We want our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren to be able to be successful, whatever that looks like to them. It could be building a big company. It could be going to work, coming home, hanging out. It could be on the mission field, being in the Peace Corps, whatever that success is. We should be able, we should champion people to define their success and say, what is your passion? And help them to do that. And that's what we need to do. Instead of knocking each other down, let's encourage people to greatness and to success. We all have such built-in abilities that God has put within each of us, and we all are gifted with certain abilities, with certain talents. Let's champion those. And that is something that resonates across the board with everybody. And when we start talking about where we agree on first instead of what we disagree on, we are going to be so much farther along and so much and have so much more success. A lot of these issues, there's I don't remember what the term is for it, but pretty much it's people in government create problems that we didn't know existed before, so they have the solution for it, and now they have to create the agency to solve the solution for the problem that we never had, and they need money, and they will never solve that problem that they helped create or help make worse, because if they did that, then that agency is not needed. It is
Self-perpetuating, self-perpetuating, something like that, huh?
Yeah, self-perpetuating. And so we need to start calling them out on this and just saying, no, this has got to end. And let's find ways for people to be successful. Let's get the government out of the way of our lives, and they've got to stop being so controlling.
Very good. Jo Rae Perkins, thank you so much. Be sure to go to Perkins for US Senate.vote. That is a extension instead of .com, it's .vote. Is that right?
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
So,
go ahead.
I want to finish this up. I'm asking for 3 things.
Go ahead.
One of them is prayer, and more prayer, but that's only one. If you live in Oregon, well, it doesn't matter where you live, you can volunteer on the campaign because we'll have people making phone calls. Donations are really needed, so pray about it. Doesn't matter how much. The maximum is $2,900. You just can't be an S or C corporation or a nonprofit organization or a foreign, non-U.S. citizen. And all that's on the website on our donation link. And if you live in Oregon, we need your vote. Tell people about me. If you want me to come and speak at your group, I'm available. My email's on the website.
All right. Jo Rae, thank you so much. Thank you, folks, for watching, and be sure and share this video wherever you can. All right. We'll see you later again. See you next time. Bye-bye.